only once did a member of the Democrat Party show any curiosity in the logical genesis of his argument of one of his bills. Once in 22 years. Debate is for public consumption, for the press or for the TV coverage. Today it really has, it rarely has much to do with deciding the final outcome of a vote. In other words, what happens in the legislature, all the debate is for the cameras and for the audience. They've already decided how they're going to vote. 99.9% of the time. Every once in a while, we catch somebody sleeping. You know what? All politicians have, they're nice guys. I mean, you have to be an affable person to want to be able to do that, deal with people. So understand that, they're nice people. But don't let that don't let them get carried away just because they're nice people. Okay, keep their feet to the fire. Okay, here's another quick one. No more old depressing conservative games. It's time to have fun. What happens when you get together with a bunch of conservatives? They start telling horror stories. Do you know what the government did? You know what happened to us? I mean, and then they finish the story, the next guy comes in and tells another story. And then they get another story. And before you know it, everybody's just, golly, man, are they coming with the black helicopters tonight to take us away? It's all one-downsmanship. You know, the party pooper is the guy who comes in and says something positive and says, hey, we got a plan for taking over this government. And they kind of look at him like, boy, you ruined our fun. Don't let that happen. Don't let that happen. It's not about horror stories. It's about all the positive, good things that we're doing, that you guys are doing in your own cities, in your own towns, in the state, and in the country. Do not allow yourself, and revel in kicking the other side down the road. Have fun with it. You know, it's fun. It's fun to win. And the harder we work for winning, the more fun we're going to have. And we get close to wrapping this up here. Yeah, you know, one thing that other people that we like to do is we like to see, okay, this communist is doing this, and we put them in a box. And this other organization, and we name the name of the person, and then we connect the dots. This person is involved with this organization, this person is involved. It's a massive communist conspiracy. And we like putting people in boxes and connecting the dots. Well, forget that. Because when you do that for a little while, you find out the same names keep cropping up in all the boxes, which tells you that their side is really pretty small. Instead, work so hard that you have the other side putting your name in their boxes as they're trying to connect all of the dots. And just be involved and have fun with that. That's kind of a fun thing when you read an article. And those who have situational ethics will easily lie if it benefits their best interest, and they believe they can get away with it. Dogs bark, jackasses bray, snakes wiggle, and liberals lie. It's their nature to do so. It is what they are. Okay, how not to live the life of the party. Next to the last couple of comments I want to make. It isn't about being a Republican. It isn't about being a Democrat. All the party is a legal ability for us to be registered and affiliated with a name and vote in a primary. That's all it is. That's all it's become. They used to stand for something. They used to have a platform that they actually defended, and they punished people for going against the platform. They don't do it anymore. So we have to understand that. The key thing is that we can go back and take it back. People say, let's make the Tea Party a party. That would be the worst thing that can happen, because the impact that you're having right now will vaporize if you waste a whole lot of time creating a party. What's better to do is to assign certain people to become members of the State Central Committee, the local Central Committee, and the State Central Committee, and take over the sticking Republican Party, because once you take over the party, a lot of your work is already done. You have fundraising capabilities, you have organizational capabilities, communication capabilities, and it's low-hanging fruit. Those dunderheads are ripe for the picking. They don't know how to work as hard as you have already worked. All you have to do is keep doing what you're doing now with the same fervor, and you could take over a structure and bring it back to what it should have been. So proud, so righteous that you'll have all of the minor parties saying, you know what, I can go back and be a part of that. And strengthen the cause of that party. And still keep the Tea Party movement out there to keep their feet to the fire. The life of the party isn't all it's got out to be. Unless we're in charge. You know, the left, they've completely taken over the Democrat Party, and they would love nothing more than to completely capture the Republican Party. Then they have no opposition in their minds. So that's one of the reasons. Okay, last chapter. Let's just stop playing defense and roll some big snowballs. Okay? Imagine one winter day when you see a large snowball rolling down the hill, gaining in size and momentum, ultimately threatening your farmhouse. You immediately begin to build a bulwark to stop the snowball's destructive advance. What if halfway through building the bulwark, you observe another snowball headed for the barn? Another bulwark? Oops, there's another one threatening the chicken coop. You would soon become exhausted trying to stop all the snowballs that someone is sending off the top of the hill. Even though every attempt to stop the snowballs has succeeded, enormous energy and materials would have been expended. Eventually, day or night, a big snowball is going to get through. Okay? Snowballs do not create themselves. Sooner or later, you figure out someone is on top of the hill, picking small snowballs and rolling them down the hill into your direction, gaining in size. What to do? First, recognize you have an enemy bent on your farm's destruction. Second, realize it's that nasty neighbor down the road, the one who wrote a book about how he intended to take over the farms around the hill. There are several courses of action that can be taken. Acknowledge at once that you can't do it alone. So gather your good neighbors around to help build better barricades and convince them snowballs can be stopped. Then raise funds and build a snowball smasher. Design an early warning system by hiring full-time, on-the-job lookouts as snowball watchers. Start a newspaper condemning snowball makers. You guys are doing that with the internet. Better yet, instead of being on the defensive, use leverage, go halfway up the hill, and divert the snowball's momentum before it gets too big, and redirect it toward the bad neighbor's farmhouse. It'll take less energy and reap a lot of positive good. Use the momentum of the snowball to build your own special interest strength. Even better, get to the top of the hill and pack your own icy missiles. The evil neighbor now has to stop making snowballs, tend to his own farm, and build a defensive bulwark to protect his own interests. You may severely damage his property and dampen his enthusiasm to make any more snowballs. Initiating an action takes less energy than does the reaction. The aggressor has a plan of action, while the one under attack must defend a broader front in order to protect himself. Any lawyer will confirm that being on the defensive is a more difficult assignment than initiating an action. No war is won on defense, but that is where most traditional Americans are now fighting a losing, retreating fight. It is an unfortunate set of circumstances, especially when the humanists are so vulnerable on so many fronts. Old socialism is failing. New socialism is growing, but it too will fail. The task then is to politicize those who have been exposed to humanist excesses. Band them together, raise money from them, teach them the strategy of confrontational politics, build residuals, and form pack snowballs. These counter-organizations should be formed around specific issues, taking advantage of the segments of citizens affected. To date, numerous groups have been set up to stop some of the socialist goals. However, most have been nothing more than barricade builders, attempting to keep themselves from being buried in humanist snow jobs. It's time to select target districts, networking with other like-minded groups who share the goal of work our way to the top of the hill and make our own icy missiles. Speaking of hills, the biggest snowballs are made in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill. We all have much to be thankful for. We've been blessed to live in this stately mansion called America. this whole thing.
All right, we have all much to be thankful for. We've been blessed to live in this stately mansion called America. We did little to deserve it. Just fortunate enough to be born here or had the opportunity to move in. Only by the grace of God and the hard work of our forefathers do we find ourselves free Americans. This palatial estate where I reside has countless rooms, including a draped kitchen with a full larder, beautiful gardens and pathways amidst grand oaks, tall stately pines surrounded. The United States is without question the best and most beautiful place on earth. That's pretty good stuff. However, like all structures, it must be constantly maintained. Unfortunately, it has been neglected and taken for granted. The caretaker and some of the groundskeepers needed to be fired. They haven't taken the job seriously, and they let it fall in despair. The roof now leaks, the outside walls are in need of paint, and the foundation needs to be shorn up before it topples over. The second mortgage is too late, too large, not to mention the first. I, like many others, feel obligated to pay it down, then get on with the repairs so we may pass this home on intact, free and clear to our children and grandchildren. In the meanwhile, there's a lot of stuff here. In the meanwhile, wouldn't it be nice if we could improve the property by planting some roses along the driveway and culling out the noxious weeds growing and smothering the garden and yard? We could even polish the grass, paint the steps, repair the welcome mat, and leave it looking like new. Then when strangers pass by, their jaws would drop in wonderment, gazing in awe upon our beautiful stately mansion. They couldn't help but say, "My, the people who live there certainly do take care of it. They really love that place."
We love this country. We have the tools. We have the knowledge. Working together, we can take this country back. We're going to come up with a plan, and I'm going to work with the leadership, with all of your Tea Party organizations, to where you as Tea Party people can work under the radar screen. The media won't know what's happening. The Democrats won't know what's happening. The Republicans won't know what's happening. And yet, we're going to play an influence in some elections throughout the state of California that nobody thinks we can win. And with your help, in a program that we're going to ask you to, remember I talked about doing a survey, making some phone calls from home in some districts that we select throughout the state of California. What we need in these places that where you're represented by good, solid, patriotic Americans, we need your help to elect some of those people down there in places where they say it can't be done. With your help, we'll identify the people who believe like we do. And then with the Tea Parties down in those areas that I'm working to communicate with, many of them have already volunteered to be the ground troops. When the absentee ballots start to go out, the Tea Party people will go to they will have the precinct sheets that you will have worked on, and they will knock on the doors to make sure that they voted. And we will turn them out to vote. There are only a couple thousand votes we have to gain in as few as 5 districts. If we elect if we win one of the 7 elections that we're looking at, 7 or 8 elections, the Democrat leadership in Sacramento will think the sky is falling. What I predict is that the President Speaker will be overthrown. I predict that Darrell Steinberg will be thrown out. I predict that a lot of the garbage that we are seeing as far as legislation and even the budget will cease to exist because in reality, remember, only a minority of the Democrats are the hardcore leadership and the others follow along because they're forced to. Well, they're going to be so scared, they're going to say if they took out